Giving all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakah Kadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone who rule well, teaching this 100% truth. Shalom and salutations to the hopeful elect, beginning with the 144,000 and the rest of the men, women, and children. I'm your brother Magun Shalamar. The title of this video is the clash between China and the whore of Babylon the Great, known as America Today. This video is for education purposes only, no monetary gain. Fair use, fair use.
Influence. By embedding itself in Venezuela's survival, China demonstrates to the entire global South that there is an alternative to Western institutions, Western banks, and Western dictates. Think about the implications if you are a leader in Africa, Asia, or Latin America watching Venezuela endure despite relentless U.S. pressure. You see proof that partnerships with China can shield you from Washington's wrath. That perception alone amplifies Beijing's soft power far beyond Venezuela's borders. At the same time, the sheer scale of China's stake in Venezuela raises the costs of U.S. intervention. This is where the stakes become explosive. If Washington were to escalate militarily, it would not just threaten the Maduro government, it would jeopardize billions of dollars in Chinese investments, oil contracts, and strategic infrastructure. Would Beijing sit idly by while U.S. troops destabilized a nation it has woven so tightly into its economic web? The answer is far from clear, but the question itself reveals the shift in global power dynamics. A military intervention in Venezuela today is not the same as an intervention in Grenada in 1983 or Panama in 1989. This time, there is another superpower with skin in the game. And here is the deeper hook. Venezuela allows China to test the limits of American resolve without direct confrontation. By anchoring itself in Caracas, Beijing signals that it is willing to project influence in the Western Hemisphere, the very region where the United States has always claimed exclusive dominance. It is a bold move, one that forces Washington to ask whether it is prepared to risk a wider conflict just to preserve its grip over a country that has already slipped partially from its grasp. The economic partnership also serves another function. By offering loans and investment deals often outside the rigid conditions imposed by institutions like the IMF or World Bank, China presents itself as the more flexible, respectful partner. For Venezuelans, and indeed for many nations facing economic hardship, this model feels less like exploitation and more like cooperation. It reinforces the narrative that Beijing is the power that enables sovereignty, while Washington is the power that undermines it. And narratives, as history has shown, are just as powerful as weapons. In this light, China's deep investments in Venezuela are not just about profit margins or resource flows. They are about planting a flag in the ideological and geopolitical struggle of the 21st century. Every oil shipment, every infrastructure project, every loan agreement is part of a larger strategy to show the world that U.S. pressure is no longer absolute and that alternatives exist for those willing to embrace them. That is the real significance of China's presence in Venezuela. It transforms the country from a regional battleground into a global symbol of resistance, one that Washington cannot afford to ignore and Beijing cannot afford to abandon. When we talk about the stakes of U.S. intervention in Venezuela, we have to recognize that this is not simply a matter of American troops confronting a struggling Latin American government. It is something far bigger, far riskier, and far more consequential. The presence of Chinese investment and geopolitical interests changes the entire equation. For Washington, intervention in Venezuela has always been framed as a question of restoring democracy, fighting corruption, or stabilizing the region. But if we peel back that surface rhetoric, what we find is a struggle over resources, influence, and global credibility. And now, with China so deeply entrenched, any direct U.S. action threatens not only the Maduro government, but also the economic infrastructure of a global superpower. That is not a small detail. It is the kind of detail that can alter the direction of history. Here's the hook. Imagine U.S. troops stepping into Venezuela under the assumption that it will be a quick, decisive operation, a display of power to remind the world who calls the shots in the Western Hemisphere. But the battlefield has changed. This is not Iraq in 2003, where the U.S. could topple a government with limited resistance. This is not Grenada or Panama, where small-scale interventions could proceed with little global consequence. Venezuela today is tied directly into China's sphere of influence. Every oil well, every infrastructure project, every trade route linked to China's economy turns U.S. intervention into a direct challenge to Beijing. That means the stakes are not regional, they are global. Consider what intervention would risk. First, the financial cost.
So basically, the United States wants to take over Venezuela or make a major influence over Venezuela's oil field. And Venezuela has pretty much gotten tired of United States of trying to bully them, because recently Trump has sent over warships and Venezuela has taken that as a threat. So they relying on China to basically finance them instead of the United States. And so China again is starting to show the world that they're more easier to get along with than the United States. The United States tried to put on a front, but only thing they really want is the country's resources. But China's saying that they're willing to work with these countries and not put as much tariffs and basically tariffs on you than what America would do. This is Revelation chapter 17. We'll start at verse 1. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Carry hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. And we know that great whore is dealing with America, Babylon the Great. And the many waters is talking about the many nations, tongues of people that America rules over, and whom the king of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Right, all of these different nations and powerful countries over the world has committed fornication spiritually with America, taking on her philosophies, her religion, and all of her, committing spiritual adultery with her, taking on her philosophy as far as her man can sleep with man, LGBTQ, and all of those, and saying that their God is white, and serving the so-called white man that's putting him as he's the God on this earth. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names and blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. We know them 7 heads is dealing with Esau's government, and them 10 horns represents the EU and the NATO. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And those what we just mentioned were the fornications that, in order to get rich in America, you have to take on her fornication or her filthiness that comes along with it. Salakia. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration, because America hates the saints, and we know the saints is the Israelites, but the Lord is only dealing with the elect. And the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua are the prophets that will be martyred during the time of Jacob's trouble. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration, because when John the Revelator saw her, he thought like, wow, she looks so pretty, she decked out. But this is what the angel says, verse 7. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carried her, which have the 7 heads and 10 horns. So he's saying, don't look at that bitch like that. I'm going to tell you what she really is. And the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder whose name were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. And that's talking about the ancient Roman Empire, because when America right now is the reincarnation of the ancient Roman Empire, because during the time John was in the prison of Patmos, the ancient Roman Empire was in rulership at that time. And so, but they fell and went into the bottomless pit, meaning that's when Europe was taken over by the Israelites during the time of the Byzantine era. And here is the mind which have wisdom. The 7 heads are the 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth, and those are the Esau's governments, beginning with Germania Major, Germania Minor, Rome, France, Greece, Great Britain, and Spain, right? And there are the 7 kings, 5 have fallen, and 1 is, and the other one is not. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And that 1 is talking about Rome, because Rome was in power during the time he was in prison. And the other one is not, and that's talking about Great Britain when it comes. And when he comes, he must continue in a short space, meaning that Great Britain only ruled for a short period of time. And America came out of Great Britain. And it says, and the beast that was, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is the 7th, and goeth in perdition. And that's talking about Roman Empire, because Rome did fall, but when it came back into power, it's being resurrected through America, that whore that sitteth on the back of that beast, and going into perdition, meaning that the Esau Edom is going to be utterly destroyed. All of Esau is going to be utterly destroyed after they spend that 1,000 years of captivity. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. And those are the other countries that America made rich and empowered on this earth. These have one mind, which give their power and strength unto the beast. So, this basically shows you that America is that great whore that ruleth on the back of the beast, which is Esau, Edom, and again, these other nations are getting fed up with America. And so, with that, I want to go to verse 16. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So, as you see, the Lord is making America sins bare, and the whole world is starting to hate this whore. The whole entire world, and they starting to compare America along with China. And so that's why you see America is getting fed up with China, even though they need China, because they depend on China for a lot of their resources as far as their technology. But the whole but the whole world is waking up to this whore, and they started to hate her, and that's what the Lord is doing. Verse 17, for the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill His will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled. You see that? So the Lord is putting it in their heart to wake them up to see Esau, Edom, or who he really is, which is the devil the Bible speaks of. And so when they bring out that MOTB, we know it to be the mark of the beast, and to put it upon the whole world, going to have to take small or great, rich or poor, free and bond. Got to take that chip in their right hand or forehead. And once the ones who take it, the 2/3 of Israel takes it, and they're being pushed on the rest of the world, then we know World War III is going to kick off, and Yahweh Shah HaMashiach is going to come through and with his angels and with his in them chariots and destroy this place. You know, and that's what we're waiting on. We're waiting on the Lord to destroy this America. Verse 18, it said, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. We know that to be America, and we can't wait to America be destroyed. With that, I'm going to say Shalom. Pray you was edified. Call halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakah HaKadosh. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom, Abba.